The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. Sam, the All-Star game is back. How are you doing?
I wouldn't even say back, my friend. I would say that what we just watched, I'm good. Thank you for asking. I think we just watched the peak of an event, potentially in my lifetime.
Okay.
I'm so serious.
You might be right.
I don't think that you can pinpoint a better All-Star game than that in the past 2 decades.
I think you're probably right, because even the
don't
best,
think you can.
Even the best of the All-Star games, often it was they tried hard in the fourth quarter. They didn't try hard for the entire games. At least like in the era that I've been closely paying attention to the NBA. I can't speak for All-Star games in the 80s or early 90s. But yeah, I think you might be right. I had a great time today, and I was kind of dreading watching the game, and for those games, I guess what it really is, multiple games.
I have a bunch of people in my personal life who are basketball fans. They are NBA fans, and they just don't watch this event anymore. Maybe they did at one point in their lives, but they don't know what happened here tonight because they just didn't care. And, you know, there are also probably some people sitting at home who are thinking, I still don't care. That's fine. It's an exhibition game. It's for kids. We've talked about that in the past. But watching the format tonight, splitting one game up where, to your point, you know, sometimes there would be a close fourth quarter previously in an All-Star game. They said, why don't we have 4 times as many memorable moments by having mini games that are 12 minutes instead of one game that's 48 minutes, right? So you had way more clutch, memorable plays. All 3 of the first quarters were decided by 2 or 3 points. And then one blowout in the championship game because the old heads got tired. But you go from 1 times the number of memorable moments to 4 times the number of memorable moments, and then you also give the players something to play for, which, to their credit, the players didn't have to take it seriously just because it was like a U.S. versus world format. They really did not have to.
I think all the bitching and complaining finally like worked on them a little bit.
And sometimes you just needed one guy because with the world team, let me be clear, the world team played first and they were not in the championship game because they lost both of their games. But they came out in the first game against the Devin Booker half of Team USA. And in terms of setting the tone, it wasn't going to come, let's be honest, it wasn't going to come from Luka, it wasn't going to come from Jokic. It came from Wemby. Victor Wembanyama came out in that first quarter and he had a great quarter, so clearly wanted to beat the U.S. side. And just like the rest of the players sort of followed his lead. I mean, from the U.S. side, the young guys in particular really felt like they were all there to play too. And we just had a bunch of great games. I tweeted out at one point the Anton Ego clip from Ratatouille where he takes a bite of the ratatouille and is transported back to his childhood, because I feel like something was unlocked in all of us. This childlike sense of wonder returned to us watching the All-Star game this year. And it doesn't mean that everyone has to watch it and everyone has to enjoy it. But if you did watch tonight and you didn't enjoy that, then I would challenge you to, like, what the hell do you want?
Just don't watch.
This was a really good All-Star game. It was absolutely fantastic. They deserve all the credit for creating this idea, this format idea, that everyone said, who the hell is going to care about this? And it worked. It just totally 100% worked. So shout out to Adam Silver for that one. There's a lot to criticize Adam Silver for at the moment with the NBA, some outlandish proposals being thrown out there about the future of the league. Mm-hmm. Credit where credit is due. This is one thing they got right.
And to not bury the lead on the Suns podcast, but Devin Booker's team won. And for a team, you know, I think there were teams of like 8 guys. So not a ton of guys won, you know, so a third of them essentially were on the winning team, and Devin Booker was on that team and played a pretty pivotal role on that team, essentially their point guard for both of those games, and finished in the total of both of those games, 12 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, and played classic, the way he's been playing all year, kind of. He played classic Devin Booker defense, where he's trying really hard defensively and played pretty well on the defensive end, which mattered in this game, it turns out, like to try hard. You know, the Suns have been trying hard all season, so that fits right into what's happening in this All-Star game. Scored when he could, was not looking for his shot, though, really was there to get the ball down the court and then find other guys to trigger the offense, and did a really good job, finished with 8 assists in those 4 games. And he's got, like, he played with Anthony Edwards in the Olympics, and it was clear. Him and Anthony Edwards seemed to have pretty good synergy. I thought the combination of Tyrese Maxey, Anthony Edwards, and Devin Booker was just very fun when they were on the court together, because, Devin Booker sort of does that initial penetration, maybe gets to the mid-range area, passes out to Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards just bombs a 3. Or he penetrates, passes it to the corner, and Tyrese Maxey is just lightning fast when he catches it from that corner and can get to the rim or trigger a couple other passes for an open shot that way. And just having that kind of athleticism around him was really fun to see. It was like, when you sort of picture what an all-star game would be like when everyone is trying hard, yeah, that is kind of what happened. Instead of just sort of passing it to a guy at the three-point line and there's nobody within 10 feet and they're shooting a wide-open 3.
And chucking
from
a 3.
35 feet or whatever,
there
yeah.
were plenty of 3s taken in the game, right? But, like, there was actual defense being played. Extra passes were being made. ATOs were being run out of timeouts. Guys were going after offensive rebounds. There were chase down blocks. Okay, maybe it wasn't quite at the level of, like, regular season defense. Okay, like maybe it was one step below that. But guys,
at the rim, I'd say, is where the defense would lack a little. They just don't want to hurt anyone, right?
Guys aren't trying to injure themselves or others, right? Okay, but it was 90% of the way there. It really was. And that was just so awesome to see. I didn't think we'd get it. Mm-hmm. I really did not think we'd get it. And just a little bit about Booker. Did you say the stat line? 12 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's sort of, once again, maybe kind of showing who he was in, his Team USA role a little bit, right? Not looking to be the guy who's taking all the fancy step back shots, although there were some plays run for him, which was cool to see, including one of those ATOs I was talking about, like just comes up for just a typical Booker pin down.
It's very funny, man. After a timeout, they ran a pin down mid-range play.
A mid-range pin down in the All-Star game for Devin Booker. Like, that's awesome.
Yes.
You have to love that.
Yeah.
You have to love watching that. But for
no,
the most part,
it was like Kobe. It was like what they used to do for Kobe. It was really kind of cool.
But for the most part, being the guy who plays a role and bodying up on defense, too, because he had to take on some tough assignments. That was the other thing, by the way. The other USA team, the old head team with LeBron, KD, and Kawhi, we'll talk about Kawhi in a second, didn't really have a big. So they were switching everything. And so it's like you're going against switch everything defenses, and then guys are slipping screens so they can beat a switch just like they would in a regular NBA game. Like, this is not stuff we see.
Yeah.
This is not stuff we have seen in the All-Star game, maybe ever. I don't know. But it was all there on display tonight. This was truly a fantastic exhibition game for the NBA. I mean, it couldn't have gone better, in my opinion.
There was one.
For the entire weekend, I have some notes on All-Star Weekend as a whole.
We'll get back to all of it.
But this was great, and I enjoyed every second of it.
There was one play where they were switching everything, and Scotty Barnes was setting a screen for Devin Booker and slipped the screen and beat the switch, and then there was help coming off the corners, yada, yada, yada. Devin Booker slipped it to him in the middle of the floor in the short roll, and I had a moment where I was like, you know what? Those guys would make pretty good pairing. I never thought about Scotty Barnes and Devin Booker
Scotty
together
hit
on
the
a team.
game-winning shot in the first quarter.
Not much of a three-point shooter and hit the game-winning three-pointer. I mean, he's been okay this season, but yeah, he hit that. But yeah, just the size of his body, his ability to play defense, and the fact that he's a pretty good creator, like passing-wise, Scotty Barnes, that's why it clicked to me in my mind. Oh, yeah, that they would actually be kind of interesting. And just running a play like that where you can slip the ball to him in the middle of the floor is cool. But yeah, I was really impressed with the effort from all the guys, and I was really grateful that Devin Booker had some good games, but also not surprised. The old All-Star games are worse for Devin Booker than these ones, right? You know what I mean? Like he's just not a guy who's going to try to go do like a windmill dunk or whatever. Like that's just not how he plays. He doesn't want to shoot from 40 feet. He wants to play with what the defense is giving him, and that's just how his brain is wired. So the sort of no defense, everyone just have fun thing, that's for like the uber athletes and the guys with insane range, and he's just not either of those guys. Yeah. So the fact that this game sort of played into his strengths did not surprise me that he played well in it. It was a surprise that it played into his strengths. That's for
the guys who can't make All-Star games anymore, like John Moran or Zion Williamson.
Yes.
So has Zion been in an All-Star game?
Yeah, I think he has multiple. Maybe.
Yeah, I think one or two. Throwing a shot in at some of those types of guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Devin Booker's team won because they played team basketball. They shared the ball, to quote Devin Booker himself from a few years back. Kawhi Leonard, real quick. We have a lot of Suns stuff to discuss here on today's episode. Oh, my God. Did anyone see that coming? Kawhi
Can
Leonard,
I say this, too?
He had a 31-point quarter in the third quarter to win that game.
Let me ask you this way.
On actual defense, like actual one-on-one, ball on a string, crazy shit from Kawhi.
Did Adam Silver get lucky that Kawhi Leonard's team didn't win the overall tournament and he didn't have to hand Kawhi Leonard the trophy for being the All-Star MVP?
Oh, a week before suspending him for a year.
Yes, exactly. And right after they traded their whole team in order to be bad for the rest of the season. That was what I was thinking, because like halfway through that quarter when he had like 18 points or whatever, I was like, oh no, he's going to win All-Star MVP, and that's going to be really weird to see. But no, they didn't have the juice, including Kawhi, in that last game, because he did so much in that. But yeah, 31 points in a quarter is just absurd in any context, but even this context where there was actual defense, he really took over. His ball handling was crazy, his shooting was crazy, and then once
he could not miss.
And once the defense was sort of overreacting to the pump fakes, then he was just getting to the free throw line, which is classic Kawhi. That's what he does when he was great, and that's what he's done so far this season when he's played, and he's been very good this season. But yeah, I think doing that in his home arena for now was pretty cool, and I imagine for the fans that were there that are fans of the Clippers, that was a nice thing to see for them.
I have a couple other
his farewell game. Just kidding.
I have a couple other Zach Lowe style notes on the game tonight before we go to maybe the rest of the weekend. One-on-one tournaments, people have talked for a long time about how fun would it be to have a one-on-one tournament. It'll never happen, but it almost happened in these games. Wemby facing up KD and hitting him with his own signature Hezi Jimbo, like in KD's face. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. That's
and KD one-on-one. Getting him back on the other end was fun too.
KD's had a hell of a day. We'll leave it there.
He seemed in his head a little bit for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in
Probably
his
saw some of my
life.
tweets.
Yeah, might be. Just so good. That's as close as we're going to get to a one-on-one tournament, and it was so good. Jalen Duren, I don't know what he finished his stats as. Hustling all over the floor, finishing off plays in transition. Jalen Duren's, I'm a fan of his now. He was a fun guy to have on the young American team. Good teammate for Devin Booker.
He rocks. I mean, he's like the only center that played besides, I guess, Wemby. Well, no, Jokic played, but didn't do much.
Yeah, but Jokic didn't even play that much.
Yeah, and Duren just rocks, man. He's just so physical and so huge and so strong and such a great rebounder, and he's been really good all season. And I thought he was really important in that first game for the Stars. I forget the name of their teams. It was the Stars, the Stripes, and then Team World.
Stars.
Yeah, and no surprise that he was on the winning team, though. But like you said, not a lot of bigs on the USA teams.
Yeah. All right. So next year we're doing same format, 3 teams, Team International, Team White Guys, and Team Jalen's. those will be the 3, right?
Yeah.
Borrowing from Nick right there before anyone
who do we
comes
got?
at
We
me.
got Jalen Brown, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Brunson, Jalen Duren. Are there any other Jalens? Jalen Green.
Jalen Green. Jalen Green, Jalen Johnson,
Jalen Wells.
Jalen Brown,
maybe
Jalen
he'll be an
Duren.
All-Star next year. We got to get Jalen Wells in there. Any other Jalens I'm forgetting?
Good ones? Not sure.
I mean, I said Jalen Wells. Sorry.
Jalen Williams.
Jalen Williams. There you go. There's 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, probably only one of them would make the All-Star game. But yeah, you could legitimately have a Team Jalen if you wanted to. You could fill it with 8 players. So there's an idea.
Yeah. I love it. If you care about coffee and how it's made, check out Alchemy Roast. They roast in small batches and source their beans responsibly, focusing on flavor instead of mass production. The result is coffee that's balanced, well-developed, and easy to drink whether you brew at home every day or just want something better than grocery store coffee. You can order online at alchemyroaster.com, and if you use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. Go now to alchemyroaster.com, my favorite coffee, and use the promo code TIMELINE at checkout. Get 10% off, support a local Phoenix business, and get the best coffee you can buy.
Celebrity game. Do you want to talk celebrity game or Saturday night first?
No, let's go through it in the order. I think celebrity game is a good place to start. After all, there was a member of the Phoenix Suns, if you will, in that game. Let's start there. What did you think? First of all, you didn't see it live, right? Were you able to catch it later?
I didn't see either of these live. I saw the slam dunk contest live, but I missed. But I know we're going to talk about that in a second. But I missed Booker's 3-point contest because I just had no idea that they moved everything up because of the Olympics. I'm sure many other people had the same experience. I don't think we have to spend a ton of time talking about this, but I will just say shout out Matt Ishbia, who more than held his own in the celebrity game. He is, he could have gone out there. I mean, he went out there knowing that he was representing the fan base and representing the ownership class too, right? Let's be honest, the only owner out there on the court.
No, there was another one. The Memphis Grizzlies, I think. Rick Schnall or whatever his name is. Or I don't know.
I didn't even
the other
that.
Old white guy. I mean, Matt's not as old as this guy, but the other old white guy.
Let's just say...
In fact, by the way, the first time Matt Ishbia touched the ball, Rick Schnall was lined up across from him, and Matt went directly at him to try to score on him and got fouled. And I was like, that was like, with him, he did that on purpose. He was trying to prove something.
This could have gone very, very poorly for Matt Ishbia, and he was one of the better players in the game. Hit the highlight, obviously, was the shot over Taco Fall.
He split a double team to shoot that shot. Yeah, he really did.
Had to shoot that ball about 10 feet high to get it over Taco Fall's outstretched arm.
I mean, higher than 10 feet, but yeah.
But by the way, I mean, good on Taco Fall for being a good sport. It would be a little depressing to me as an actual former NBA player, unless I was like 60 years old, being reduced to being in the All-Star Celebrity Game if I'm like 28 years old like Taco Fall is.
I mean, what other job could he have, though,
I don't know. I don't know what he's doing right now. Is he coaching?
Maybe. I haven't kept up with Taco Fall, I'm not going to lie.
Need a producer for these questions. So
I think
throw two live.
Yeah, we can afford to hire someone. The thing about Matt Ishbia that I loved, and for those who missed it especially, I know everyone listening to this saw, or everyone that watched it knows what I'm going to bring up, but he just played really hard the whole time. He was hustling for offensive rebounds. He was diving on the floor for loose balls. He was making the right reads and passes, had a couple of really nice passes, including starting the game with a behind-the-back pass to someone who just whiffed a wide-open layup. And, trying defensively, including like boxing out Taco Fall and trying to take the ball from him multiple times in a way that really embodied the way the Suns have played this season. And that's not an accident. And he's 46. Like, I know he's not like 60, but like 46 for a guy who's not an athlete. His body hurts today. I guarantee it. In fact, Adam Silver hinted at it. He said that he was happy to see Matt Ishbia out there. Although Matt's not injured, he is a little bit shaken up or something like that. He's just said he's not exactly healthy, it sounds like, after that game. And, that's because he played hard. He was out there playing hard. And I think, with the way he's spoken so far this season and the way he has put such a strong emphasis on culture and the fact that it's worked so far this year, it was not by accident that he was playing that way. And I do think it actually probably meant something to the players if they were even watching, which I imagine they probably did because he was in there, or at least watched clips of it later. So shout out to him. I was impressed.
Yeah.
The best non-athlete of all the non-athletes, I think. Because there were NFL players that were really good.
That's an important distinction to make. I mean, it's, among actual athletes out there. And Matt, was a student athlete in college, and
Yeah.
was a walk-on on a D1 program, right? But like that was 25 years ago. So this was a good showing for him, I would say.
Yeah, really impressed.
And
really
not a
impressive.
great showing for Shams Charania, by the way.
Yeah, 0 points. Cardio. He had a cardio game.
Very good. Some very good jokes there. There
He
was no
wanted
way
to
that
shoot.
Shams. There was no way that Shams was going to be able to do this and come out like winning from it.
Just
like
one
the meme,
good highlight would have been good for him.
The meme potential was too strong
Yeah.
if Shams had some bad plays, and he did. So there you go. Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. I mean, Book lost. I don't really know what to say there, other than
I thought he was good. I
Good-
mean,
good to have-
he just had to make
good to
two
have
more
our
or
boy
one
in
more
it.
shot to tie, 2 more to win.
Yeah.
But had the highest score in the first round. Like really, I think when you're there, Dame hasn't made a single shot this whole season, so the fact that he was even there is, something you can question, but I liked that he was there and I enjoyed even him winning. I wanted Devin Booker to win, but if anyone else was going to win, I didn't care that it was Dame.
Yeah, the fact that Dame hasn't played this year, that's not something we need. We don't need to police the 3-point contest like that.
Just put guys in that will be entertaining, and he's a guy who's won multiple times.
For sure.
Yeah. And also, those guys get along really well. Just for those who don't remember, if you want to be mad at Dame, feel free to be mad at Dame for winning or for being there at all. But Damian Lillard was an All-Star a few years ago, and then Damian Lillard was injured before the All-Star game, about a week before the All-Star game, and they went to him after the game, and they said, Dame, who do you think should replace you in the All-Star game? And he said, Devin Booker. And then Devin Booker was chosen to be his replacement. So Damian Lillard contributed to Devin Booker being an All-Star a few years ago. And beyond that, he's been asked in the past, who's his favorite players to watch in the NBA? The first guy he mentions when he's asked that question is Devin Booker. He's a big fan of Devin Booker in his game, and I think those two guys are pretty close and get along really well. It was kind of fun that it was them in the final, especially after Con Knipple just kind of shat the bed in his first round or first group of shots in the second round. He just scored like 17 or something. So you knew it was between Dame and Book, and they really came through and made it kind of entertaining. For me, I just didn't want him to be really bad. Considering he hasn't shot very well this season, I just go out there, do something good. If you win, that's cool. If you lose, whatever. And
didn't want to add
that's what we got.
more fuel to that narrative. I get that. Dunk contest.
You
No
don't want
Suns
to talk
in
about the shooting stars?
I didn't watch the Shooting Stars. What happened there?
Nothing. It was pretty boring. I get why they got rid of it now. I
like I
look
said,
forward to it too.
I missed that one, and then when I flipped it on, I was like, okay, ready for this to start, and it was already the dunk contest. So
Okay. Okay. Before you say anything, can you name all 4 of the dunk contest participants from memory as quickly as possible?
Jackson Hayes. It says something that Jackson Hayes was the most memorable. Jackson Hayes, not for good reasons. Carter Bryant, Kashad Johnson, and Jace Richardson.
Okay. I was
I got all
just
4.
testing you just in case, just to see.
Yep. And the panelists, I could tell you the panelists too, because they had some choices, some takes. Dwight Howard, never again. I'm sorry, Dwight. Never again. Don't let him back. Brent Barry was okay, I guess. I think that Dr. J, they always put there just to be a hater, just to be a grumpy old man.
I love that. Yeah. At this point, I root for that.
So
I want
the
to see
most
all
memorable
50s and then a
things-
48 from him.
The most memorable things that happened at the dunk contest this year, for those who missed it, was Kashad Johnson won it because he did a bunch of Fortnite emotes and
Yeah.
and Jackson Hayes did a regular ass fast break dunk because he could not decide midair what he actually wanted to do, I guess. And it was probably, although he did get it on the first try, but it was probably the worst dunk in dunk contest history.
I
think you could
remember
make the
when one
case.
guy couldn't hit a dunk and he had to do a layup like 10, 15 years ago. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Was
I
that
don't remember who it was.
Birdman? Was that Birdman? Chris
maybe,
Anderson?
maybe.
I think it might have been Chris Anderson. I can't remember.
Kashad Johnson, though, for his Fortnite emotes, he was putting his whole ass into those. He
His
was really doing the Fortnite emotes, man.
I don't remember if it was his first dunk, but his Karl Malone dunk where he jumped over a guy and hit the elbow on the back of the head. That was good. That was a good
I think
one.
all of his dunks were good, and Carter Bryant would have won had he just made his last dunk in the first 2 attempts. I think Carter Bryant was just better. And, Kashad Johnson earned it, don't get me wrong, because Carter Bryant just couldn't do anything on that last dunk. Look at me
I will
having
say
opinions
this
on this
dunk
terrible dunk contest.
we're in such a lose-lose situation with this dunk contest because this year was a good example where there were no props, right? These guys were just dunking.
Well,
they were
no. Somebody jumped over someone in the first round. I forget
that's not a real prop. It was Keshad Johnson.
E40?
Yeah, he jumped over E40, but that's not a real prop. I'm talking about some of the gimmicks that
there's no cupcake. You mean?
Yeah, were really popularized for a while, and at a certain point, people are like, okay, enough with the gimmicks. So now they go back to basics and they do dunks that we've seen before because the human body is only capable of replicating so many things. And people continue to criticize the dunk contest, so I don't really know what we want from these guys at this point. I would like for there to be bigger names, of course. But it's just, diminishing returns naturally because there's only, I think whoever was commentating even pointed out there's only so many dunks that these guys can do. Jason Richardson's son, I think everyone knows that, had a good homage dunk to his dad where he went, what was it? Reverse behind, double pump reverse sort of. It didn't look as good as when his dad did it.
He's 6'2", his dad's 6'6", yeah.
Exactly. I was just impressed by the fact that a 6'2" guy was doing that. So that was a good dunk, I thought. But what do we expect from the dunk contest at this point?
Yeah.
It's not fair to these guys at a certain point. I think that the companies that are currently working on robotics to do mass surveillance or whatever should just make
Amazon?
dunking should just make dunking robots instead, and that will be the next generation of the dunk contest.
I think one of the big problems with the dunk contest is everything's kind of been done already. And also, NBA athletes are NBA athletes first. So if you go, well, these professional dunkers are doing better dunks than they're professional dunkers. It's a different job. It's a different type of thing. These NBA athletes aren't just out there practicing dunks to try and innovate the entire season. They're trying to maintain their ability to be on an NBA contract and then continue making that money. So I don't feel like it's really possible to get to the place that we want to get to without rigging the game like with Mac McClung, like they've done in the past, and essentially putting a professional dunker in the game who's quote unquote an NBA player. Right. But it's fine. I like even this one. Nobody knew these guys really. Other Jackson Hayes, probably the most famous one, just because he's on the Lakers, and it was still kind of entertaining. I didn't think it was
fun.
That bad.
It was not as good as this All-Star game that just happened tonight, but I had enough fun rooting against Jackson Hayes. I learned more about Keshad Johnson, who's just really charismatic, really infectious. Make fun of the dancing and whatever, which I did.
No, I thought it was fun because he was trying to entertain the crowd. It is fun.
Exactly. He's, there's something to be said about everyone's just so miserable about everything these days. There truly is something to be said about someone who just shows up, knows that they're an entertainer, smiles, and fucking puts on a show. And Keshad Johnson tried his best to do that. So, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what people are saying in group chats about the dunk contest? Maybe we'll find out. There is Suns news.
Yes.
Which is kind of the big surprise of All-Star weekend is that the Suns signed a player. And not only that, signed a player supposedly for this season and next season. Multiple years is how they described it. But really, it's a year and a few months.
Yep.
Haywood Highsmith, who I did not realize was even going to be a candidate to be bought out, was injured, was on the Nets, and then the Nets just bought him out. And then he was a free agent. Has not played. I think he maybe played or was set to play one game before the All-Star break, and then they just didn't play him and then bought him out. And now he's supposedly healthy enough to play or could be soon. And a player that you and I have talked about. In fact, I believe you brought him up, maybe not this season, but last season, as a potential free agent signing that the Suns could target. And this is a pretty good fit overall. Not the tallest player, but kind of does play like a power forward, like a small forward, power forward, even though he's listed at 6'5" on Basketball Reference. But what'd you think?
Yeah, so first of all, I'll point out, I mean, I have liked Haywood Highsmith in the past. So I will give myself some credit in the sense that, yes, this is a player who I brought up on this podcast as a potential free agent guy in the past. At the same time, I won't give myself all the credit because I had no idea that Haywood Highsmith was on the Nets. I knew that he was injured.
Play.
I just thought he was injured and he was somewhere. Like, I thought probably he was on the Heat roster still and just was like nursing a meniscus or whatever. Had no idea that this was going to be a buyout candidate. Thankfully, the Suns were on it, and it seems like a bunch of other teams were showing interest as well. I think this is a really good signing that came out of nowhere. We knew that the Suns had an extra roster spot. I didn't particularly expect them to actually use it. And I think this is great. Like now that I have some time to think about, with the obvious caveat of, like, you know, he needs to actually be medically cleared to play and ready to go. And Haywood Highsmith, even though he doesn't have a ton of NBA experience, he's only been in the league for 4 seasons. He's 28 years old, right? He was a late bloomer who came into the league at a later time. So assuming that he's actually going to look like his old self, that version of his old self was a guy who started a bunch of games on some solid Miami Heat teams and was a really quintessentially capable 3-and-D player. Would it be great if he was 6'8" and 240 and like more of a true power forward size? Yeah, that would be great. But for his size, more of a Royce O'Neal sized guy, maybe an inch taller. He's a really competent.
He looks taller. In my mind, he was taller.
Yeah, I think he's stronger, for sure. He's a really competent 3-point shooter. He's a really competent defender, gets a lot of deflections, breaks up plays. I think he's fine enough as a rebounder. You know, I don't think he's going to be Jordan Goodwin levels of chasing after offensive rebounds and whatnot. But for a buyout guy, this is as good as it gets, in my opinion. Like, again, would it be great if he was the perfect body? If he was like in Rasheer Fleming's body? Sure. But then he wouldn't be a buyout candidate, you know? Yeah. So for what he is, I actually think Haywood Highsmith is really a player who, again, did not know was on the market. I think he could help the Suns in the stretch run. And honestly, my first thought, again, if he's healthy, my first thought is I like him more than Amir Coffey as a pickup. Mm-hmm. I think he's probably a better player than Amir Coffey. Maybe not by much. And Amir Coffey's a more capable shooter, even more capable shooter, I should say. I think Amir Coffey's more capable of scoring a little bit more in bunches, whereas Haywood Highsmith averaged 6 points per game last year for the Heat. But I think Highsmith is a better role player. I think he's more well-rounded, and a stronger guy. So
better defender,
I really like
think,
this
too. I think people will be like, "Oh, he's this good of a defender," when he's really locked in, assuming he gets up to speed athletically relatively quickly, because he might not be as good as he was. He's coming off of a serious injury. Positive on-court differential the last 2 years in Miami that he played. Basketball Reference does a position estimate where they kind of estimate what your position is based on when you're on the court. Last season, he played 50% of the time at power forward, according to Basketball Reference, 49% at small forward, kind of a little bit more at small forward than power forward the previous year, but obviously that's based on the roster that Miami has, meaning he plays a little big. And
started 42 games also.
Yeah, like played significant games.
Like, and not for a tanking team. The Heat were up. They got swept in the first round, but they were a playoff team last year. And Haywood Highsmith
that made the playoffs.
Yeah, okay, but Haywood Highsmith started 42 games for a play-in team. Like, that's a real contribution.
I mean, the Suns are a play-in team right now, technically. So yeah, it's like and in the West, which of course is a lot harder. Signing him for this year and next year, I think, is really interesting for multiple reasons. One, it's probably why they got him, right? They were willing to sign him for multiple years, coming off an injury, getting some sort of guaranteed money for next year. I'm not sure if it's fully guaranteed, by the way. Don't know exactly the details of the contract. Have they released those?
I thought Gambos was saying it's a team option.
Did he?
Next year, but I
know he said it's a vet minimum.
Okay,
that's all I've seen.
You keep talking and I'll go look.
The thing that I find interesting about it being multi-years is that it kind of gives them a little bit of flexibility of something to do with the roster this offseason. Like, if they need to trade Royce O'Neal or Grayson Allen to find someone else, Haywood Highsmith could play a role. Like, he could play 15 to 20 minutes a game, and you're not, like, that's not a horrible situation for you if you can improve somewhere else by trading Royce O'Neal or Grayson Allen, or if you have to shed salary for some reason to keep someone and you trade Royce O'Neal for nothing. Ideally, you don't do that, right? But if you have to, and you have Haywood Highsmith on a vet minimum next year, it's pretty nice to have that
Yeah.
roster flexibility for next year. I'm not surprised that they did that. I am surprised that he was willing to do that.
So no concrete evidence of exactly, like, we're going to have to wait for all the details to come out. What Gambo's saying is vet minimum both years, partially guaranteed next year. So the assumption is that there's some sort of guaranteed money next year. Maybe it is a team option or whatnot. We don't.
That's
really
kind of
know,
what I figured. Because why else would he sign a contract, right? There has to be something guaranteed.
Right. There might be something guaranteed. That's what it seems like.
Now, we'll see when he makes his debut. He could play. The Suns are off, for those who don't realize, until Thursday. They play the Spurs on Thursday. They have no games between now and then. There were options for the Suns on the buyout market. There were a few guys that we talked about in the past. I was on a podcast with Gerald last week. Go back and listen to it if you'd like. We talked about some buyout candidates on that podcast as well. We never mentioned this guy. This is why it was such a surprise for me. I sort of rely on other websites to come up with a list of potential buyout candidates for me, so I didn't scour the whole league to look for them. And this was one that was a surprise for me. And I'm pretty excited by it. I think he will be we've talked about this in the past, and we talked about it with Amir Coffey. The Suns have been so intentional about finding guys that fit their culture and the way they talk about what they want that culture to be. And they found another one. They really did find another one. Haywood Highsmith fits what they're trying to do. He's a high effort, good defender who's willing to dive on the floor and get a ball and can shoot a little bit.
Now, let me just say, he's improved his three-point shooting a lot over the years. His last 2 seasons in Miami, where these are real sample sizes, okay? He played 1,800 minutes last year, 1,400 minutes the year before. Those 2 seasons, he shot 44% from the corners both years. A lower percentage above the arc, above the break, like most guys do, maybe closer to 35 or whatever. But 44% from the corners is a real lethal shooter to have. So this is a real complete role player. And also, I think not going to be a guy who's on ball a lot or maybe has some of the slight creative juice of a guy like Amir Coffey or whatever, but also not a guy who turns it over. He's going to make the extra pass. He's not going to turn it over. This is just really solid. So I'm excited.
I am too. It is All-Star break, right? We got no games until Thursday, like I said earlier. So I thought it was a good time to sort of reassess the entire season up till now. A lot of times people use pre-All-Star, post-All-Star break as a delineation for the way teams have played. About 2/3 of the season has passed. We're sort of at that point now. And I decided to make a list of what I consider the 5 most surprising things. I guess you could call it the most surprising things, or 5 big surprises for me this season so far for the Suns. I didn't tell you I was doing this ahead of time, so I'm just going to throw all 5 at you. And I just want to talk through all of these surprises, and maybe we could decide of these or of any that you suggest, what is the biggest surprise for this team so far this season. Feel free to add any. We'll talk through them one by one. You ready?
As ready as I'll be.
Okay. Number 1, the offense is good when Devin Booker's off the floor.
Yeah.
Is this not the biggest surprise? When we think about how, maybe you can make the case it's not, but when we think about how we talked about the Suns before the season, I thought that Devin Booker was going to have insane on the court, off the court numbers because they just weren't going to be able to score. And let me add to the offense is good with Devin Booker off the floor, and Jalen Green hasn't played. So we can put both of those things together and say it's just surprising that they've really cobbled together a competent offense with Devin Booker off the floor.
Yeah, it's massively surprising. I think both of us were high on Gillespie going into the season, of course. Didn't think he'd have a season like this, right? And so a lot of it's coming from Gillespie, a lot of it's coming from Oso, sort of the joint power of what those two guys are able to do. Also, though, Jordan Goodwin, I'm sorry I ever doubted you, Jordan Goodwin, and maybe advocated for Jared Butler to get your spot. That was crazy that I said that. And Jordan Goodwin has just been so absolutely massive to this team. You don't happen to have the offensive ratings in front of you, do you?
I do not, but I do have, let me just say it now since you put it, one of my 5 big surprises, Jordan Goodwin is a huge part of this team.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, Jordan Goodwin is not a guy who you would think of as lumping into that group of he makes the offense better. But his defense has been so overwhelmingly good when he's on the floor that the sheer amount of transition opportunities that they get makes the offense better when he's on the floor. And I don't know exactly by what number off the top of my head, but like the fact that that's the case is truly miraculous.
And offensive rebounds, which often lead to very good shots, efficiency-wise. He has made such a massive difference. Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, I think deserves some credit there as well. And let me see. When Jordan Goodwin's on the floor, it's the 8th best. It's 113.6, which sort of matches Colin Gillespie at 113.7. Of all the actual, guys who actually play for this team, Devin Booker, of course, is number 1 in offensive rating. So the Suns are at their best offensively when Devin Booker's on the floor. Big surprise, right? That was something we could have anticipated.
What's that number?
115.8. So it doesn't drop much.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was wondering, is if it was like, approaching 120 with any one guy and then there's a steep drop off, but it doesn't seem like that's the case at all.
And then it's Grayson Allen, Dillon Brooks, Mark Williams, and then Colin Gillespie and Jordan Goodwin, which really kind of makes sense if you think about it. And then Oso Iguodala is right there. The guys that sort of make it worse are Ryan Dunn, Royce O'Neal. Of all the guys that play, those are the guys. Nick Richards, of course, had a really poor impact on the offense, but yeah.
Pretty surprising to see Royce in there. I would think that, definitely Royce, you would see that reflect in the defensive numbers, but I didn't think that the offensive rating with Royce would be bad.
There's only 2 players of the rotation players that have negative net ratings so far this season, and they are Dillon Brooks and Royce O'Neal. Yeah. And actually their negative comes from the defense more than it comes from the offense. But yeah, those are the guys. But yeah, so the offense being good when Devin Booker's off the floor, huge surprise. But Jordan Goodwin, just to get back to him as my second one that I was going to read anyway, being such a massive part of this team, there's just no way that anyone would have predicted that. First of all, if you go back to beginning of the season or preseason, we were debating who should even have that role. Just like you said, Jared Butler was another guy that was on the roster in training camp, and they had the choice of keeping one or the other. And we were, sort of mentally trying to figure out which guy would be the best option. And,
Well, and yeah, what's so great about that? The whole point, like, the two things are related, right? Your number 1 surprise is related to your number 2 surprise, because the reason that we were saying, maybe the spot should go to Jared Butler is because we thought the offense would struggle so much without Devin Booker on the floor that they would just need another guy who can dribble the ball a little bit. Not only did they make the right decision in taking Jordan Goodwin instead, boosting the defense, and by virtue of that also the offense, but then a few weeks later, they go out and pluck Jamari Bouye off the street, who none of us knew anything about. And Jamari Bouye effectively is what we were thinking maybe Jared Butler could be, right? An extra pair of hands that is competent enough with the basketball, can run some pick and rolls and make a few jump shots, that when guys are injured, the offense is not going to crater. So at the end of the day, they actually accomplished both things. And I don't know where Jared Butler's playing right now, but that's the unfortunate thing that happens sometimes in the NBA, but it worked out well for the Suns.
Yeah, he might have to fight his way back into the league. I do want to say, just to get back to Colin Gillespie, though, as well, just on that first surprise, he's just been so vital to this team in a way that we couldn't have expected to. But I do think we were pretty high on him this season, so I didn't include him as one of the big surprises. But his impact to the offense when Devin Booker's off the floor cannot be overstated. He's just one of the 3 guys who can dribble so far on this team. Jalen Green will be added to that once he plays more than 7 games, or 6 games, really. Dillon Brooks being one of the other ones, which we'll get to him later. But Colin Gillespie, his shooting, his passing, his dribble penetration, and the fact that he really doesn't turn the ball over, and the fact that the defense doesn't crater when he's on the floor really helps to keep him on the floor. I know it's not his impact to the offense, but if the defense cratered, regardless of his impact on the offense, they might not play him. But it doesn't. It's pretty good when he's on the floor. so far this season. Even when teams target him, it seems to not impact the Suns too negatively. Occasionally, it's maybe lost them a game here and there, but not that often. And he has been such a good thing there. And on Jordan Goodwin, just to flip back to that one, I think, it's hard to picture how this season would have gone. Jordan Goodwin was not playing to start the season. He just wasn't part of the rotation, if you remember. It's just hard to even picture that. And because of guys getting injured, he found his way onto the court, and he's essentially played every single game since he got onto that hardwood, because Jordan Ott sees the impact that he makes on the floor, and he just does too much to get off the floor. It's probably impacted Ryan Dunn's minutes a lot, right, so far this season, since even though Goodwin is the size of a guard, he plays forward on this team. And
I was going to say, Jordan Goodwin is the perfect example. You were talking about the Basketball Reference position estimate stat with Haywood Highsmith a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Goodwin's right now, and it says 39% point guard, 51% shooting guard, because it does, it includes height in that calculation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Jordan Goodwin's just not. He's like a small forward on this team.
I would say that he never plays point guard.
Yeah,
he's always on the
much.
floor with another point guard, except in blowouts where everyone's off the floor and he's just the guy dribbling the ball.
Yep.
So he's one of the big surprises this season. We'll make the case if he's the biggest or not. Here's one. Oso Ighodaro is the best sophomore on the team. Meaning Oso Ighodaro has been better than Ryan Dunn this year.
True.
Did not expect that. That's a big surprise to me this season. And it's not to say that it'll be that case the rest of the season, but it kind of feels like it will be. Oso's been that good.
It feels like the momentum is there in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's certainly... Ott just is... Ott has really learned to rely on Oso to keep things moving.
He loves him, yeah.
Yeah, and he doesn't feel the same way about Ryan Dunn, just based on his rotation patterns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that Ott hates Ryan Dunn, but we can tell the way the momentum is going for both guys. I wouldn't say that this is the biggest surprise, just because if you had told me this at the beginning of the season, both of us had big questions about Oso, of course, but it wasn't inconceivable that this could be the case, right? It felt like
it was more
a long
inconceivable
shot.
10 games into the season. That's when it felt inconceivable.
No, that's a good point. Oso's start to the year was so absolutely horrendous, and actually you bringing that up makes me want to bring up just his split stats for just the last 30 games or something, if you take out his atrocious start to the season, because really he's gotten so much better since then.
Mm-hmm. I think that if you told me he'd have the best net rating of any player, the Suns were at their best when he played, that's where I would be like, what? I would almost feel like there would be some sort of disaster that happened in order for that stat to be true. But no, he just has had such a massive impact on the defensive end, and over time has found a role to impact the offense positively, even when he does not score very much. And that's a combination of his passing and screening. I think his screening is really one of those things that is really impactful. And and his sort of fearlessness at the rim. He's also surprisingly a better rim protector so far this season than Mark Williams. So he's better in switches, and he's been better at the rim. And so that's one of the big surprises.
Dude, I didn't even realize how perfectly this would work out. I promise I haven't looked it up before. Let me read to you Oso's split stats, his true shooting percentage by month this year. You ready for it?
Yeah.
52% in October. League average for true shooting at this point is probably 57, 58.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And for
maybe 57,
centers who just dunk, you should really be 60 plus.
Yeah.
So he was at 52 in October, 59 in November, 61 in December, 66 in January, and 70 in February.
That's pretty crazy.
Just gone up for him.
By the playoffs, he's not going to miss a shot.
At the current rate, could be the case. The free throw percentage is going up too, albeit not by that much. It's more gone from 35% to 55%. But hey, if he could maintain 55%, that would be okay, I guess.
Just to do a slight victory lap for me, people were painting me as an Oso believer at the beginning of the season in a negative context. And I'm so far winning that battle. Haven't won the war yet, but I am now winning that battle, so I'm happy about that. Also, I think he's been you've mentioned it on the pod before, entertaining to watch so far this season. Like, he's been fun.
Totally. Yeah, highlights have been great.
Dylan Brooks scoring. We
This
did
is
not
up there.
expect that to be what it is so far this season. Is he still averaging above 20 points? I believe he is, right?
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, he's at 21.
I mean, that's just crazy. He's had the best scoring year of his career. Now, whether that be just like actual scoring or like efficiency in self-created shots, and I would guess, I can look right now, efficiency overall. No, last year he was more efficient because he only shot threes. So
Well, that's the thing. So
Yeah.
this is the best 2-point shooting percentage of Dylan Brooks' career. It's the only season in which he's shooting over 50% on twos. The crazy part is, of course, most of those are mid-range turnarounds, right? Like, Dylan Brooks has
hard
never
shots.
been he's never been a layup finisher. He's always been a really bad guy at the rim. This year he's figured out, okay, well, if I just shoot 55% on my middies, then maybe it doesn't matter.
And he's been good at the rim so far this year. He just kind of uses his shoulders to like bump guys and then shoots little floaters.
I would say
shots.
he has not been catastrophic at the rim.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what the stats are. Yeah, that's a good point.
I would say probably not like good, but he's been fine. Yeah.
Let's see. Field goal percentage by distance, 0 to 3 feet, 71%.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Last
now?
year he shot
Okay.
54%. So this year
that's
he's
kind of
way
crazy.
better.
71's not what I was thinking. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That's really good. Good for him. And 47% in the 10 to 16 foot area, which is crazy, just as you said. Like, that's the Devin Booker area. And by far the best of his career. He shot 45% there his last year in Memphis. And for those who don't remember, like, when he was in Memphis, he shot a lot of mid-range shots. And then when he went to Houston, that's kind of when he cut those out of his shot diet. And, he's back shooting, similar to some of his Memphis years in the amount of shots, the percentage of shots that he takes at that distance this year.
So it, of course, has been an up and down season with Dylan. The technical foul thing is going to loom over the second half of the season because he's probably going to miss some time. The defense is also a looming question. I don't really think we've had a conversation about that on the main feed.
No, it's a good place to do it. I know we're giving him credit for his scoring, but it's a conversation I've been having online too because it was really bad the last few games.
Yeah, I mean, this is still absolutely one of the biggest surprises of the season that he's scoring this well. It is kind of a bit more of a nuanced conversation, though, when you talk about his impact overall on the team and where it really is. And you said it yourself before, like him and Royce are the guys who have negative net ratings on the Suns. So that comes from somewhere. With Dylan, it mostly comes from the defense, honestly. I for as good as he has been offensively, the defense at times leaves something to be desired.
It's hard for me to get mad at Brooks's net rating this year too. The context of it is so important. Devin Booker's missed games, Jalen Green's missed games, and so often when neither of those guys are on the court and the shot clock is winding down, they just pass to Dylan Brooks and they're like, bail us out, please. And he's just not that guy. He's not been that guy throughout his career, and he's done about as well as you could anticipate him doing. But even that's not great. But I do agree, defensively, I think he's just getting beat a little too easily. It's tough for him to battle around screens, but he's very physical and as a one-on-one defender. And I do think he's been really good there. He's also good at switching. He's good at sort of trapping or pushing up or hedging, doing all the extra stuff around screens. But if he's guarding like an off-ball guy who's running around off-ball screens, that's where he gets a little stuck. And then sometimes because he likes to push up so high on switches,
for sure.
Sometimes he just gets beat by the quicker guys, and then they have to the defense has to react around that. And that's where Mark Williams hasn't been very good this year, is being the guy that's helping out in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely an online discourse thing of people were posting the stat about both Dylan and Royce getting blown by, but also how Mark has not been a very good rim protector. And it's kind of both things. Like neither position is helping the other.
No.
Mark, by being a bad rim protector, puts his perimeter defenders in a bad position. Similarly, on the other side, it's a chicken and egg thing. Which one really comes first? So everyone, all three of those guys in particular, really just need to be a little bit better. Dylan is in a weird spot, I would say, with where the NBA is, in that he's kind of just like he's really strong. I think if guys were posting him up more often, like they would have, even 7 or 8 years ago, then we probably wouldn't be having this problem. But with how much space there is on the court right now and how often he's being put on the perimeter, not that he's not a competent perimeter defender, but like that's where he's, now that he's 30 years old, has been in the league for a decade, he gets a little bit more exposed sometimes. And it's just really hard for guys to survive this long in the NBA and I think keep up their reputation as elite perimeter defenders in particular, right? You really need a level of foot speed that I think is hard to maintain.
Mm-hmm. And agility. I think because of his girth, it's a little harder for him to remain as agile as you need to be a defender against a lot of the quicker guys. I imagine the defense, like when him and Jordan Goodwin are on the floor together, is much better because Jordan Goodwin can take some of the quicker guys and he can be on some of the more lumbering guys, and that's where he's more effective.
It's
which is why they're going to have to
too.
figure out the starting lineup. I mentioned it again, and why I think Jordan Goodwin would be really helpful in that starting lineup.
Yeah, and it's another place too where we were a little disappointed that Ryan Dunn hasn't taken that leap forward as the point of attack perimeter guy, right? Because in theory it was, Ryan can cover the guy on the perimeter, and then Dylan Brooks is taking your number two, like, I don't know, he's taking Kawhi Leonard one-on-one, from the mid post. But it's a different type of defense, and asking Dylan to guard quicker guards on the perimeter is not necessarily a recipe for success.
For the record, Ryan Dunn, I think, has been good defensively. I don't think that it's the defense that's keeping him off the floor. I think it's the offense. And I think Ryan's his offense. He's improved his offense too. I think he's been better. I think
Ryan's been
year.
Good. Ryan absolutely has been good defensively. He's just not like, the best defensive prospect we've seen in 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's probably not fair to him, but that's what people said.
Yeah, people really did. Yeah. Last one, and then we could sort of brainstorm on a couple more if you want and figure out what the biggest surprises this season. But I'm going to knock on wood while I say it. Mark Williams has played a ton of games this year.
I was hoping you wouldn't say it, but yeah.
He's playing a ton of games, man.
That might be number one, to be honest. I had penciled in, and this is why I was thinking we get maybe, I was hoping for 50 games out of Mark. And
he's played a career high, for those who don't know, of games so far this season.
Yeah. And I think what I was hoping for is that Malawach would just be, like, of course he would make rookie mistakes and whatever, but I wasn't thinking we would get this much of a redshirt season for Malawach. I was thinking you could plug him in there for 15 minutes as a backup behind Nick Richards or whatever, or Oso. And that things would be okay, like more or less okay. And now I'm not so sure, and it really exposes a vulnerability in the Suns' front court rotation at the moment that necessitates Mark stays as healthy as possible.
Yeah, I think there's a chance they try to keep that last, assuming Cole Anthony is cut, they try to keep that last roster spot open as long as possible, just in case as well, in case they need another big body. Bring back Biyombo. Is he a free agent still, or is he still on the Spurs? I can't remember.
He probably got cut by the Spurs, right? Let me look.
Can't remember. I'm very grateful that he's played as much as he has. I kind of wish he's been better defensively, but I do think overall he's been pretty good this season. And I think the Suns can figure out how to get more out of him. Since we're on Mark Williams too, one of the reasons
he is on a 1-year full vet min with the Spurs. He played 10 minutes on February 10th, so it's like he's not getting into a bunch of games, but he's on their deep bench.
The thing about Mark Williams, too, the reason the defense is so much better with Oso on the floor is there's a lot of guys that can switch on the Suns because the Suns are not the tallest team, but they're pretty strong overall. They got a lot of guys that are not skinny guys out there when they switch, and Oso being one of them. What's been part of the problem with Mark Williams is when they play a deep drop, he struggles to get back out to shooters, and often his contest is either late or his feet are not quite in the best position to really defend shots at the rim. It's actually an early Ayton problem that we've had with DeAndre Ayton when he was first on the team. For those who remember Ayton in his first 2 years, it's kind of how Mark Williams has been playing defense this year. I wonder, because Mark Williams is pretty laterally quick, I wonder if one of the things they try with the rest of the season is actually being more aggressive with him defensively. And this is not to say that it will definitely work, but maybe they need to push him out a little higher on those pick and rolls. He needs to play at the level a little more, which he occasionally does, or let him switch and see if teams could beat it over and over again, or just try and push guys out to the 3-point line and scram switch back to the big. Like really just try to be a little bit more aggressive in the coverages to see if that helps a little bit. And that will help eliminate 3-point shots. It often does. And you need guys that can cover the rim, obviously, but the Suns do that when Osa's on the floor, so they can have guys that help that in that way. But you know what? I'll mention it again. The new starting lineup, assuming Jalen Green's in there soon, if they just put Jordan Goodwin in there and you're going to look at the Mark Williams numbers later and say, wow, they've gotten a lot better, it might just be because Jordan Goodwin's on the floor with them a little bit more now instead of Royce O'Neal. Royce O'Neal and Dylan Brooks in those lineups.
Yeah, so another thing, I agree with you broadly speaking that it would just be interesting for my own personal curiosity to play Mark out.
Just try.
A little higher. Yeah, just to try and see what happens.
It might go terribly.
Because he's still young too, and is still this malleable player. Just one other thing we need to consider though: the further you push him out, the more your wings need to be able to compensate as defensive rebounders. Assuming defenses can still get shots off most of the time, right? On the average possession, you're not forcing that turnover that you want to get, and so a shot is going to go up, and Mark's going to be further away from the basket. That means Dylan Brooks and Royce O'Neal need to do their job that traditionally speaking, they don't. So like if a guy like Jordan Goodwin is out there, I feel a lot better about that. Right. But I do feel like part of the reason Mark plays close to the basket is because they're trying to make sure that while they try so hard to grab all these offensive rebounds, that they're not just allowing the other side to neutralize that advantage. So yeah, it's a tough position for Ott to be in because all these guys have limited skill sets. But
now that you have Haywood Highsmith too, maybe you can afford to put Jordan Goodwin in the starting lineup, and you kind of have another guy that can come in and do some of the Jordan Goodwin stuff when Jordan Goodwin comes off the floor, or Coffey. Either one of those guys can do a little bit of that. I don't know about
maybe a little bit.
Highsmith's offensive rebound. Like Goodwin's kind of an unreal offensive rebounder for his size, so assuming anyone could replicate that is actually kind of hard to say. Highsmith
gets good offensive rebounds, I would say, for a guy who's, what did we say, 6'5", 6'6"? But I wouldn't call him like, he's not. Very few players are Jordan Goodwin, okay? Jordan Goodwin is an animal. Haywood Highsmith will get some offensive rebounds, but not like that.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other, well, let's say this. Other surprises I considered putting on here. I considered just Jordan Ott. Like he's been very, very, very good, and that's a surprise. But I don't know that like rises to the level of like biggest surprise this season. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were hopeful about Ott. So I would say you were probably right to leave him off or just like include him as an honorable mention. Grayson Allen, just keeping the offense afloat, honorable mention, right? It's not insane what he's doing when he is healthy, but 17 points, 4 assists per game for Grayson Allen and just firing off a ton of threes. He's had a really good season and a bounce back season too, because we were a little disappointed in him last year. So I would say that's definitely an honorable mention. Jamari Bouye is an honorable mention.
How about Kaman Malowicz being unplayable?
Yeah, that's
a little bit of a surprise. I wouldn't call it the biggest surprise, as I'm someone who bet the under on his overall games played on our over under podcast, so I couldn't say it was a huge surprise, but still kind of been worse than I thought.
Kobe Brea has not already had a 30-point game and signed a signature shoe deal. That's personally my biggest surprise of the season, based on the things I said.
I am grateful that we haven't had a sort of timeline, and I mean like online, poisoned with Jalen Green discourse that could go poorly because he just hasn't played much this season. So I expected to brace myself for any sort of pushback if we did have to criticize anything Jalen Green's done. It happens with young guys. It's normal. But we'll see when he gets back and plays. There's going to be... let me ask one last question. Actually, of those, what's the biggest surprise, do you think?
Of all of them?
Yeah.
Mark Williams missing... I mean, does Mark Williams have he's got the... How many games?
He's played 50.
He's played the 5th most games of anyone on the roster.
That's a good one.
I think that's number 1, and I think the offense staying afloat without Booker's number 2 for me.
Yeah, I think that's those are the two things I thought of first when I was coming up with the list. Are you at all concerned, and maybe we'll cover this more on our Patreon, but are you at all concerned about Jalen Green being reintegrated into the team? And, just as much as having a good player is always more helpful, sometimes when you reintegrate a player that is sort of this much on the ball, it can actually upset the chemistry in a temporary fashion. Are you at all concerned about that going forward? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But on the other hand, we've seen the ways in which this offense has really strained at times. And I think Jalen just provides talent that they kind of need. They kind of need that injection of talent, right? So there are things I'm worried about in terms of the on-ball share between him and Book and Brooks. Brooks needs to take a little bit of a step back sometimes, probably. And, Gillespie as this emerging player who's been on the ball more, not wanting to take away too many of his touches because he's been so dangerous as a pull-up three-point shooter too. So everyone needs to be fed a little bit, but I think they'll figure it out.
I do too. Anything else before we go?
My other biggest surprise was that I enjoyed the NBA All-Star Game so much. It was so good, guys. We're all watching next year, assuming they keep the same format. Okay?
Good stuff. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back with a Patreon episode. We'll have to think of a topic. Maybe we'll just do half an hour on KD's burner accounts on that one. So if you'd like to sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/thetimeline. We appreciate you all. And shout out for having a good season.
Higher.
77. Exactly. Thanks, everyone.